right, everyone, and we are back, and let's go ahead and start to play around and clean up data, extract key data, and then let's see what we're kind of working with here so we can get all the key values. So I'm going to go ahead and let's import xrd mesh, and let's do here, and let's treat it as, let's treat it as data just to be safe, but soon we can kind of skip those values. So again, let's visualize it in table form, and we got these values. So I can see in Mathematica, what I want to do is I want to grab certain columns. So let's say, for example, I want to grab all of the 2 theta values, so the second column. What I can do, pretty straightforwardly, is look at this. I could grab, give me all the rows. So I want all rows and the second column. And when I do that, voila, I've got it. And you could not, I mean, you don't have to visualize it with this. You can just look at it like this. I could also say, from here, I see, I don't want this, basically this, row or this row, right? I don't need this I want to work with like actual real data so I can kind of start to analyze it. So I want the numeric values. So actually I could skip, minus actually here. So I want to start from, actually this is the first, second. So I could grab the second and then go all the way around. So I could just get rid of that first row. You could actually, it's easier to visualize it here, table form. So you see, I don't want this first row of data. So I want to grab the second all the way down and grab the rest. And I could grab, other things as well. So I could go ahead and instead of all 2, give me the first, from 1 to 7. Give me the first, give me the first 7 rows. So of all of the columns. So again, you can kind of grab those and start to play around with it. And we can actually start to even look at other data sets too. So let's go ahead and let's do import xrd raw. Let's look at it in forms of data. Look at here. Let's do 3 to minus 1. Actually, not 3 to minus 1. So let's look at this data. Let's look at table form. So looking at it here, I've got 1 row here, I've got a second row here, and then a third row. So let's say I want to take from the third row on, because I don't want those 2 files, or the 2 rows, excuse me. So now I got x coordinate, y coordinate. So 2 theta intensity. I can now, let's line plot that. Let's do plot range all. Let me close it. Let me close this. Let's close it here, and I've got my plot. So again, we're trying to extract some of this, critical and important data. So let's continue to work with this. So let's do import dscdat. And let's look at this in terms of the data. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start to work with this set. So let's just get rid of this flatten. I don't like this extra parentheses here. And let's start to look at, again, 1 to 30. Let's look at this data set. Let's start to see what we've got here. Table form. So looking at this, again, I got lots of headers, all this stuff. And then finally, I get into index, time, rows, sample temperature, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to get rid of some of this junk. So let's start at 15. Went too far. How about 12? Not far enough. So let's do 13. So here I've got 1 more row left. So I'm going to keep this just so I can kind of play around with it. But now I could start to extract some important data. So I could do clean data equals this. And then I could go ahead and say, let's go 14 to minus 1. And that's going to give me all of my clean data. So now I can start to extract different elements of this data. So for example, I could plot, for example, let me kind of shrink this. Let's go ahead and just do this to like 18, just so we could see and visualize this. I could do list line plot of a transpose. So let's say I want time. So I'm going to grab cdat. I want all of my rows, and I want, in my column, I want to do time, and then I want to do transpose this with cdat all 3. Time versus temperature. Great. I could also do a plot of temperature in my x-axis 3 versus heat flow 4. I'm going to do plot range all. And I can grab that. So I can start to plot all those values. I could also do this for all the different data sets. So for example, let's do table CDAT, I from 1 to length of DSC dat. So I could do all that. That's going to get nasty. Let's just hide that output. So now I could do CDAT, for example, CDAT1, and then I could say again, give me all 2. So that'll be my time. So I could do my time. I could do now table transpose of CDAT, basically I, comma, here. So transpose all the time versus temp. Or actually, let's do temperature versus heat flow. And I could do that. Transpose from 1 to length of CDAT. So loop that over, and then list this line plot. I'm going to do comma plot range all for all the data sets. So oh, isn't that ugly and pretty and beautiful all at the same time? So we could do something very, very similar for, let's do bending, for example. So I could do import bending 1. So again, I could see here, I want, let's see, from 3 to -1. And actually, we could keep this. Let's keep that there. Let's keep the import here. And let's say I want, for example, I want 3 to -1, but I also want to grab, I want to plot displacement, which is the second column. And I could do this line plot of transpose. And this is computationally very inefficient, but I could actually do this quite easily because it's a single value. And I could do, and look at that, list line plot, or I could just do list plot of that data set. So you can do that. Again, you could loop that over for all the data sets, and you could do the same thing for the Modesto data set, has very similar values. And again, it's pretty easy to do the table. So let's just actually do the table right here. Table I, and then I from 1 to length of bending. Oops. And I can do the exact same thing for the Modesto Valley data set too. So Modesto, because it's still force versus displacement, and then we can get going here. And once we get that, yep, and we got it. So this is how you can kind of extract and plot all these data files at once. So with that, next time we're going to get into exporting those data files, and then we'll be on to the next one. So thanks, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.